We're going to open the meeting, and is anybody recording in the audience? Ooh, time delay. Okay, we're going to say the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'm going to ask Larry for the flag.
Okay, now that the meeting is open, at 7 o'clock we have an A&R on Burnett and Rochdale Street to sign, I believe, or approve. That's been approved already?
I don't think you actually said you approved it. You looked at it and you said there's no reason not to sign it. It's increasing the lot size of number 14 Rochelle. The town is selling a sliver of unbuildable land with the condition that it be combined and used as additional acreage to the home.
Does anybody have an issue with this? Is everybody in favor of this? Okay, we're going to make a vote.
Make that vote. We sell it to them to increase the size of that lot, to make it one lot.
No, we're actually just voting on the combination of land. Town meeting's already approved the sale.
Okay, so you're making a motion.
Yep.
Okay, and a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It is a vote. How many of these do we have to sign, Adam?
Everything that's there. I think there's 2 papers and the Mylar. I think John and Wendy have. Yeah, please.
Put the date on that one so we're running. You want to sign it with today's date?
No, because we still have to do the conveyance. So I'll date it at the day of the conveyance, because the registry is weird about the way they record it.
All right, I'll just leave the 5
That's
there.
fine.
Don't-
Because it'll be before the end of the month,
All right.
all likelihood.
That squeaky clean.
Yep.
Why did you sign it over there?
Who knows?
It has to be different.
I think Jimmy's the only one that's going to sign this one.
Yeah.
Well, you'll have the 5 on one of them.
Okay.
Alrighty.
And the school building committee.
Now, even though the other A&R is not on here, are we?
You
doing
are.
the other A&R?
Yes.
So, this is an A&R on Elmwood Street, right?
There's an error of omission. I think that you can sign it without an issue. Or at least discuss it.
You're gonna put that one up on the board?
Yeah, give me a minute. I don't think I put it on the flash drive since you all had it. But there's paper copies here if you want to look
Oh,
at it.
all right. No, I say pull it up on your phone again. It's easy.
Okay, the gentleman is here that, why don't you come up here and give us your name and address and...
Hi, good evening, everybody. I'm Peter Haugen. I live at 163 Old Meeting House Road.
Okay, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you are planning on doing here?
So I purchased this several months ago, and I came to the board to split the lots off of Elmwood Street, and then I held the other land as to be determined what to do with, not buildable at the time. So since that point, I've gone around and talked to a lot of the neighbors over there, and apparently in the past there was a townhouse development that I guess there was a lot, the neighbors were up in arms over there about having a big number of units built over there. So after meeting with everybody and the neighbors, me trying to be the new guy come into here, they really hoped I would go with the smallest amount, which was 5 single-family lots. So that's what I've done, tried to make everybody happy and be the new guy over there. So what I had done is, at the time when I purchased it, it really wasn't adequate. It was paved, it was just kind of degraded and really kind of overgrown. There was a woman that lives at the end with her husband down here. And they do have fire trucks down there. They do get down there through Gibson even before I regraded it. So I regraded it, and I looked it up in the regs, and it said 18 feet, and there's a 40-foot right-of-way. I widened it out to 20. There's actually 2 20-foot rights-of-way that go along Gibson. And so when I closed on this, my attorney said, yeah, 20 feet, middle of the road, that's yours, do whatever you want to upgrade that. So that's what I had done, and I don't know if anyone I know a couple people had gone out there and take a look
Well,
at
it's got like 3/4 cut stone on it?
Yeah, it's like the regrinds, actually.
McCallum.
Yeah. So it's asphalt reground asphalt on it right now. Stone underneath and then regrinds on top.
So you didn't do anything underneath the road when you prepared it?
I just put stone underneath and then the
Did you dig it out
regrinds on
before
top.
you put down?
Yeah, I dug out wherever it was, just basically to level it out, and then filled it up with, it was about 10 inches or 10 to 12 inches of stone, and then put the regrinds on top of that.
Well, this isn't a public road anyway.
Yeah, it's a private road, but there were some issues with the neighbor. They were always getting stuck down there. They're very happy now with the road, and the neighbor at 90 Elmwood Street, you know, and he's always bailing her out and pulling her out because she always used to get stuck down there, and we've kind of resolved that issue. So overall, I think it's you know, a nice plan, private road. There was enough frontage when I met with the engineer originally. The lots are big enough where you need 100 feet of frontage in a 10,000 square foot lot. So I could also upgrade High Ridge Road, but I really, after driving down there, that road only goes about maybe third or half of the way in existence right now. And the grades really are not very good on High Ridge Road. So after meeting with everybody, I just kind of decided to go with what that small little community of 2 neighbors that I talked to wanted, and try to get their support.
All right, does anybody have any questions to ask?
This is the cul-de-sac down here, right here,
cul-de-sac.
at the end of
There's
Gibson.
no-
Well,
No.
it's
like a
technically no
round.
cul-de-sac, but it actually, that end of it ends right at the end in that lot on my property on
Well, is
lot
this where the
7.
house is right here?
Yes, where your
This is where
finger
the
is
house
is
is,
where
the
about
little
where
barn
7 is.
Here,
Over
Ronnie,
here.
This is that last lot, and this is the house.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
All right, but I just went down here tonight and it's round.
Right, the turnaround that I made basically goes into lot 7 a little bit there. We tried to make it wide enough so, you know, you could get down there and turn around. It's not officially a cul-de-sac, but
Right, you
did
gotta
make a turnaround.
do a few point turn to get out.
How many of you people are familiar with this? Okay, you're familiar with it?
I went down there today.
Well then, what would you like to...
Well, I guess my concern, first of all, would be, this is a A&R plan. So what is within our purview to...
Well, the regulations have certain requirements for the plan, and then the board has to determine whether it's a public way, a way shown on the subdivision plan, or it was in existence prior to 1940. Mr. Helgris supplied a plan of Overlook Park that is dated at the registry in 1927 showing Gibson as a created way. So it meets that threshold. The board also has to determine whether or not it has vital, direct, practical, and traversable access to municipal services from the abutting way to the buildable portion of the lots.
Also slope too.
Access shall be safe and convenient for travel. Where access is illusory due to the existence of steep grades or other physical barrier constraints or impediments, the board shall not consider the lot as having sufficient frontage to allow a division of land without approval under the subdivision control law. If the board, you also have the way presently has sufficient width, suitable grade, adequate construction to provide for the practical needs of vehicular traffic in relation to the proposed use of the land abutting thereon or served thereby, and to provide for the installation of municipal services to serve such land and buildings erected or to be erected thereon. It says that the board shall consider, in determining these, the horizontal and vertical alignment of the roadway shall provide a minimum 200-foot sight distance. Traveled surface shall be 18 feet wide, shall be adequate to provide access to each lot by firefighting equipment, police, and other emergency vehicles. Roads that serve or are proposed to serve 10 or more lots must be paved to meet this requirement. Where the lots shown on the A&R don't have proper frontage, you can't consider them as adequate lots.
Now, these do have, first of all,
They meet the dimensional requirements.
that's correct. And second of all, you know that there's adequate roadway for emergency vehicles. That road is better than some of Auburn's roads right now. I think that the only issue that I think we should discuss is the fact that there is a huge drop from front to back on the lot. And that is within the grades.
I think we can only discuss the grade of the road.
It's only where
No, the lot
it's,
too, I think.
it's access. It's not the lot.
Okay?
It's the access to the lot to the buildable portion.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be a determination of what the buildable portion is and whether or not there is direct traversable access from the right-of-way to the buildable portion of the lot.
What's your feeling on this?
Without taking any of the conditions of Gibson in, it makes perfect sense. My concern is Gibson itself. I've been out there. Sure, it's wide enough. I find the surface to be questionable in the long term based on the grade of Gibson. I imagine 5 houses being built, sold, Mr. Helger leaving town, and in 2019, these people signing a petition looking for the town to accept the road and the town to improve the road to some acceptable standard.
Is there any
to them.
drainage in it?
I don't think there's anything in it. I think it was a road that prior, when Mr. Helger first bought this, it was about 12 feet wide. It was, if it was paved, it was all alligator cracked all the way down, so it was sort of like, it was like the earth was taking the
Is this
road
gonna
back.
be town water and sewer?
It is, yes.
So they're gonna have to dig the road for the water and sewer.
Well, he's going to have to dig the road. Yeah. We have precedent with this board in the past where private roads were upgraded through a process similar to the subdivision process. South Hold Road. We
Sunrise.
established that.
Then when we
No,
require
Sunrise. Sunrise is still just a dirt road, and it's still private. But South Hold Road, they were looking to improve that road to a standard that would allow for construction of homes, the installation of additional services. They went through a process that was similar to the subdivision process that was going to ultimately result in the road being accepted as a public road, long-term maintenance to be accepted by the town. As this stands, the town, from my understanding, would not accept this in any way because it's never gone through the planning board process for any of the grading, drainage, or installation of utilities, which while Mr. Helger may understand that, and it all may be well and good, and there may be no way for us to require that this go through that similar process, the people purchasing these homes are not necessarily going to have the same understanding, and we could run into a situation where the perception is that the town is not doing the correct thing because we're not accepting a road that has no definable construction methods. He may have installed plenty of stone, it may be compacted in lifts, it may be graded perfectly. We don't have any plans or inspections that show that this is the case, so we don't know what's there. The fact that it is in essence a gravel road, I understand there are regrinds, but you're essentially talking the same thing. Plowing becomes an issue. The town plows all roads, public and private, as a matter
Well,
of
you
public
plow
safety.
that, the stone's gonna be down in the other guy's front yard.
And that's the other concern.
The town actually has been maintaining this.
Yeah, but it was
before.
it wasn't like it is now. It was that spider cracked asphalt. At least the plow wasn't plowing up tons of stone down into the bottom of it.
Well,
Adam,
that-
go ahead. Is there a requirement by the building inspector on the slope of the lot and the land that's you're gonna fill in? You're
There's
gonna
not. I mean,
obviously
he'll-
have to fill a lot of that land to build on it.
Yeah, well,
He'll
There
have.
used to be a regulation that was
There still is.
in
If-
in
If
lifts.
you bring in less than 500 cubic yards, or between 50 and 500, you need a building permit. If it's associated with the construction of a house, you don't need the special permit. If you bring in fill of an amount greater than 500 cubic yards, the planning board's required to give a special permit. That's...
I thought there used to be a regulation, when you fill the land, before you can build on it, you have to compact it in like 1 foot lifts and this, that, and the other thing.
that would all be part of the building code.
That's what I'm
If
asking.
he's
Is
gonna
that
if
part
he's
of
gonna
that?
bring in fill,
Or sit naturally for 5 years. before you can build.
he's going to have to prove that it's suitable for the installation of the foundation. The building inspector does require a bottom inspection on all foundations, whether there's fill in the lot or not, because there's plenty of places that have unsuitable soil that need some additional help prior to a foundation being installed.
So
Wendy?
none of these lots are sold yet?
no,
No,
no.
okay, so.
I don't know if it
They don't
matters to the
exist yet.
board. Yeah,
Right,
yeah, right.
right. So this does this fall under the subdivision, Adam?
Be-
Subdivision rules?
Well, that's what the board is kind of looking to determine. Because Gibson meets the standards for a public way in existence prior to 1940, now the board has to determine whether it's got suitable traversable access to the lots, whether it's got practical grades.
Well, what's this, excuse me a minute. What would indicate to you that there's no traversable access to the lots from that road?
There's...
It's dead level from the road right to the front of where the house is gonna be.
You're correct. There's nothing that says that to me. It's again, the road construction and
So
state
it's
of
the
the road
road construction
that provides concern to me. And that would be section 3143, the presently suitable grade, adequate construction for the practical needs of vehicular traffic. I'm not saying it, and it's up to the board to determine that. I have concerns about the long-term suitability of it. The other concern that I have is the number of lots that Gibson serves. We're looking at 5 on this plan. There's 4 here and possibly 5 or 6. And the regulations do say if the road will serve 10 or does serve or will serve 10 or more lots, it needs to be a paved surface.
A paved surface meaning it has to be an accepted road by the town?
No, it just needs to be paved. But once you get into pavement, you get into stormwater and drainage and all of the other things. I don't know. That's the other thing about this lot or this road is these lots down here are odd at best. And whether or not it's 9 lots or 10 lots, it is not an easy determination.
Yeah, I guess I appreciate what he's trying to do. He's
Mhm.
working with the neighbors. Could have done a more high density development over here. He's trying to be respectful of that. We've done projects where we put down road grindings. They are plowable. They're not great plowable. Issues do come up. The long-term issue of it. I went down there. As far as grindings go, I'd love to see it expanded. But under what we have right now, I understand if you pave it, you now have the gravel. The grindings are impervious. So if you pave it, now you have to get into laying drainage, doing all the stormwater issues. I guess I have an issue with the way our regs are written, again, and looking at kind of the issue that we've had a couple times now, which is a policy for the long-term acceptance of private streets, and a little nervous now about us approving something that will 10, 15 years become a potential liability for the town when those petitioners come in. So I don't know if that's his problem. I think maybe as a board we have to push to get the town to put some new policies in that maybe discuss that prevent this in the future, and also have set policies for the long-term acceptance of private streets, so that when people come into the town and they buy a lot on Gibson Road, they know in the long term that this is their long-term liability. The town, it doesn't meet the thresholds for the town, and they will have to bring it up to a standard if they want that to happen. So, in my mind, it's not perfect, but I think it's fine by the regs. I appreciate that he's trying to work with people, and I think I would support it, and then hope that we could start to, as a board, seriously look at making sure the regs reflect what it is we want and see.
Well, that was good. Again, we're here to rule on the regulations on A&Rs. At this point in time, he has met all of the regulations in granting an A&R. Okay? I don't think we can just start throwing in things at this particular point in time that would disallow him to develop this. And it's not his fault or our fault. It's the way that the regs are written. Okay? If they said, okay, you can't have a slope that great to the from front to back to the lot, that's another thing, and that's something you could rule on. But our town regs don't say that. Okay? So again, we got to stick to the we've got to stick to the regulations on this. This is the way I look at it. Okay? If he meets all of the regulations for A&Rs at this particular point in time, I don't know what else you can do.
Agree.
You have any comments on that?
No, I agree with everything you said, but I do agree that we need to be looking at, moving forward. We just got, had that similar thing with Old Cart Road. That road was allowed to have nothing happen to it for 20 years.
Well, Old Cart is actually a little different.
It's a little
I'm
different,
sorry
yes,
to
but I mean-
interrupt.
Was
Yeah,
paved.
no, it's a little different, but it's kind of on that same, in that same line. That, we have to be thinking about what's gonna happen when, the town has to accept that road, and then we end up making the improvements to it, and,
Oh, it'll be falling apart, there's no question about it.
No, the town doesn't
Once
have to
they
accept
start
it.
building, you start building down there and bringing trucks, that road's gonna fall apart, just the way it is.
Well, and
Well,
to be fair, the difference is Old Cart Road was designed. It had drainage. The planning board had control over it at one point, and through a confluence of events, it was allowed to get to the point that it exists.
different but similar, but this could end
Correct.
up being the same type of a, yeah.
Yes and no.
Yeah.
I think to Jonathan's point, the DPW director and I have been talking about this, and we're going back and forth in draft form with the acceptance policy, and private roads that have not been through a subdivision approval process or a planning board process will not be considered for acceptance. So this could be petitioned, but it would not,
They approved.
per the potential policy, would not be considered.
Okay.
The petition could be submitted and it would be brought to the selectmen, and they, in all likelihood, would decide to not lay it out based on
Well,
the
what
facts presented.
criteria do we have whether or not we designate that it needs to be a subdivision approval? What,
If you felt the road didn't provide for the standards outlined in the rules and regulations, it would be required to be considered a subdivision. If it does meet the minimum standards, then it's an A&R, and they have frontage and lot size, and the division
well, not
goes
being a
forward.
professional engineer, I don't have a way to determine that, whether it meets those
I
criteria.
can determine that.
Yeah. I can't.
Well, I mean, and it does say the regulations do say the board shall determine. So it's in the opinion of the board. The
That-
mitigating factor being that from tonight the board has 21 days to decide whether or not to approve this plan.
And if you don't approve it, it's approved.
Right. I would,
Or you have to give a denial with a reason.
Right.
I would move to approve the approval not required plan.
Well, first of all, we have to close the hearing.
Okay.
It's not a hearing.
Then you're on.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed?
I'll abstain.
It is a vote. You got your A&R.
Not that it matters too much to this, but I am planning on living on Gibson Road.
Well, we might incur some of the cost of making it a public
Oh,
way.
probably. And then some.
Thank you.
Are you constructing the two houses that are over there right now?
Well, if you want to stick around, I'll give you the Mylar right now.
Yep.
Point it straight down.
Yeah, right.
You should have licked it.
Yeah. There's a thing there, it's made from,
Here's the cap on that.
Is this one of them, Adam? Sign this one?
Yes, please. He'll get the
Do I sign
plastic,
it?
we'll keep the paper.
Yeah,
Just see, going right on the right side.
that's Ronnie's, yeah.
If anything, it went next door into the site plan focus, but it shouldn't have.
you gotta sign this one, then.
How's your dad?
With a regular
Said
pen?
hi.
I'm not worried about it. When I have new stuff, I can't find the jacket with the old stuff.
Is
When
he
they
in
put the
town?
date on it,
No, he's actually in Marlboro, but he'll be in to see my son's in the Auburn play, middle school play.
Oh,
Beauty and the
So
Beast.
we'll be in for that. Beauty and the Beast. He's Lumiere,
Ooh,
so it's
oh,
big, big
nice,
part.
big,
big deal.
Yeah,
it's great.
big doings.
So we got all the family coming for
The
that.
14th, it's the 13th, you changed that. Oh, well, that's great. Is he still working for Honey Farms? Or
He is.
Is he?
Yep.
Wow, he's
Yeah,
great.
long time. He's just about to retire. I think he's got like one more year or
He's
two.
been there since like 98, right?
I don't even remember.
Adam, you know something, I would
Yeah, 90,
definitely,
somewhere around there, 96.
I would definitely draw up something to make an A&R more definitive,
Thank you guys.
Yeah, you're welcome.
so
Good
that we
luck.
actually have something substantial in front of us that said, okay, this is what it's got to do in order to become
Get
an
the
A&R.
Mylar and-
You have that. It's in the rules and regulations, and it's
Basically, what you're saying though, Adam, okay, you're saying this, or you're saying that basically you want anybody that's going for an A&R to build a road that would eventually pass to be a public road. That's what you said.
I would disagree that was no. Those are mine.
So
you're all set.
Record this, get you the slip.
Yeah, just either fax it or you bring it in or scan it and email it.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
All right, bye now.
Generally, A&Rs are on roads that are already constructed. If the road is unconstructed, then the determination comes based on what's in the rules and regulations. That is per the language of the Mass General Law. If the board wishes to determine specific criteria, we can do that. My concern with extremely specific criteria is there isn't generally waivers with A&Rs. It either meets the criteria or it doesn't. So having some determination by the board gives the board the ability to look at it and
Side
use
by
their
side.
judgment and use it case by case. What, again, my concern was the practical vehicular access and what regrind's ability to stand up on a slope over the long term for the installation of 5 residential homes. If the board determined that that was adequate, then that's their decision, and I stand by it. I'm not going to.
Would you want to discuss this further in
Yes, we can do
discussion
that.
section, or do you want to talk about it now?
I think we should leave this to another session. Because we already have a current hearing here on Packagug Daycare, and I would like to call up the people from Packagug Daycare. Like to give us your names.
Joe Martin from Packagug Acres.
David Feist with Feist Engineering.
Okay. Did you bring us a rendering?
Anything that came in today.
Just copies of the revised plans.
Which one would you like? The big site plan, just so it's up there. That's good. Easy.
Okay, we ready? Why don't you make your presentation, and then the board members will ask you whatever concerns they have, and then we'll go over the responses to the engineering designs
Okay.
from Braze Engineering.
Okay, my name's David Feist. I'm the project civil engineer. Since the last meeting, there's a few changes we had based on our meetings with the Conservation Commission, as well as discussions with the town engineer. I'll just go over briefly what the changes were. One of the main things is the town enacted in February. There's a new 25-foot no construction zone around a wetland. So because of that, we had to shift our detention basin back a little bit and move 3 parking spaces that were here back to the rear part of the property next to the garage. In addition, we're showing just some concrete curb stops here for these parking spaces, along with some bollards to define where the walkway will go between the parking spaces and the front entrance. In addition, one of the other, in speaking with the town engineer, he's asked us to camera this pipe, the 24-inch pipe which carries the intermittent stream across the property. With that, we've also applied just for an amendment with Conservation Commission to get permission to do that, because as part of that, they also have to jet clean the line before they camera it. So just if there's any silt and stuff, we have to make sure that's included in our order of conditions.
So none of your construction, Joe, is gonna interfere with that pipe? You're not touching that? The building's on the other side of it?
Correct, yeah, we kept the building about 10, 15 feet away from the pipe. In addition, I think that's going to maintain, Joe will retain ownership of that pipe that carries that intermittent stream. One of the meetings with the town engineer, Joe's willing, is going to grant, I guess, an access easement down here where the ditch is a head wall and the pipe that enters the Auburn Street drainage system, so the town can maintain it. And also the town has a catch basin here with a pipe that ties into that pipe. And Joe's also willing to grant an easement for that pipe to allow the town drainage to continue to go into that intermittent stream channel. The other main change to the plan was we also added a small stormwater basin here. Originally, we had a series of catch basins here with a pipe that tied to the drainage ditch with some treatment. After discussion with the town engineer, he felt it was more important to not increase the peak runoff to the drainage ditch. So we're basically keeping the same amount of, a little less, but about almost the same amount of pavement that goes to Auburn Street now will continue to drain towards Auburn Street. And then an area, in this area here, similar to the side parking lot, will just drain by sheet flow to the side to a small grass basin during some of the storm events.
How deep are they about?
Only about, very shallow, just about a foot. This one may only be even 8 or 9 inches.
With a very low grade too. It's not gonna go down.
The big challenge is because of the shallow groundwater table, we really couldn't put any structures in and get them into any kind of surface basin, and we couldn't do any underground basins because of the shallow water. So the best thing was more like a country drainage type of design, so that we could get the grades to flow over to the side. With that, those are the main changes. I know we addressed, submitted a letter that has answers to some of the questions from before. I guess one of the other questions that was asked at the last meeting was also the site distance from this curb cut. We did go out and measure the site distance after the last meeting, and there's 328 feet as you're looking towards the highway, and then heading up, I guess northerly on Auburn Street. Is at 684 feet of site distance from the exit driveway.
Okay, did you change the name from Richard Weigel to Ken Smith?
Yes.
Okay. Just a question.
I saw that on there.
It was a joke. Was the, yeah, you need to be here more. Jonathan, do you have any questions to ask Joe about the project at all? Is there any of the is there any of the responses from Graves Engineering that you have any questions with?
Well, do we have
We're gonna go through
responses
these,
from
right?
Graves though, or is this
This
is
is
Feist's memo?
this is
Yeah.
Feist's memo.
Separate.
I mean, Graves' original memo had 5 what I would call housekeeping items.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
you'd like them to generate a closeout memo, I can ask Jeff to do that. But I don't believe Jeff has. I know Dave submitted a second set to Jeff. I don't think he's written a memo based on the limited scope of the original.
So that memo reflects
Yes.
the new. This memo reflects the new plans.
Dave's memo does. Jeff has not written a closeout memo that reflects Dave's response to him. If that's something the board wants, I think it's a reasonable condition, and Jeff can turn that around probably in a week or two.
That wouldn't
Everything
hurt.
in here is pretty
Yeah.
minor.
Mhm.
I don't know that I mean any issues. Or,
Wendy, are you all set, Jonathan? Wendy, do you have any issues, or would you like to ask them any questions?
Well, the only thing that I know we had a discussion about the sidewalk onto the property from the street, from Auburn Street. And I see where there still is no pedestrian access from the sidewalk on Auburn Street. You don't ever anticipate anybody needing-
If that area ever becomes a walking area, I'd be more than happy to do that, but I'm really more concerned about people pulling up to the curb and if it's a sidewalk there, taking the kids out there.
And leaving the car and then
And leaving the
pausing
car.
back up on the. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the big concern. It's not the sidewalk, it's that. And
If
Well,
anybody
you
does walk up to
mentioned-
the property, they'll be on.
Something about them all being driven in or something, or nobody would be walking in
No.
anyway.
yeah. I mean that, you know, there could be a family that would end up walking there. You know, I can't tell you that it's not
Right.
gonna.
Joe,
Yes.
there's a sidewalk along here on Auburn Street,
Yes.
There is. We would actually be rebuilding that sidewalk right there too.
and you have a gored area here that provides access.
Yeah.
You have a little bit of extra room here.
Yeah.
Is there potential to shift these parking spaces 4-5 feet in one direction and gore a small area to provide, a visual walking area?
Yeah.
And that sort of covers if someone does decide that they move to Bryn Mawr and they want to walk. I think that, would that satisfy sort of
I
what
think,
you're looking at?
Yeah, something that,
And it eliminates your queuing concern.
That's a great idea. I would defer to Dave because he has a turning
I
radius.
mean, I don't know if
Nope,
this is gored that way for.
Mostly because we didn't have enough room to get one more space.
Sure.
But like to just have 4 or 5 feet, I think there's enough room to
Yeah,
do that.
just
I
something
think
that's
that'd be
enough
great.
that you
Yeah.
can have a visual look through.
Yeah, I
That's
like
that's
that.
not
I
a
like that
parking
idea.
area.
And then just a short, maybe length the sidewalk from the street.
Yeah, yeah.
Grass.
You could even probably put like stones or something that, if it's up to you. If sidewalk is easier for you, that's fine. But I don't, as long as it's flat and traversable.
I'd rather have nothing that a plow's gonna hit there, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Is there opportunity also for some kind of a tactile or
That would be up to.
tactile down to that scored area?
Is there a curb at the back of this grassed area?
This right here.
This area
Is this a
here.
curb?
Yes, it is a curve.
Okay. So so you'll have to put an
There'd have to be
ADA
a
compliant ramp in.
Ramp and a tactile, stepping into a parking area, into an area where cars
Well,
will
it's going to be a
moving.
step down anyway, so there's got to be.
Right, but,
Mhm.
it just alerts the person with visual impairment that they're gonna be stepping into a place where there'll be vehicles.
You gotta kinda have the least amount of encumbrances too, because when it snows, you gotta get it plowed quick, because they're all coming with the kids in the morning.
Anything else, Wendy?
Well, I want to thank you for, doing the site distance measurement, and I understand, I took a look at the table in the back, and I know it's 30 mile per hour posted speed, but that's not the reality, and I don't know, I'm still a bit concerned about that coming across that lane of traffic and turning left
At the,
out
at
onto
the,
Auburn
at
Street.
the
Exit.
easterly
At the
exit, or at the,
Not at
Well,
the
no.
entrance, one is only strictly
An
an entrance, the exit and making that left-hand turn across the
The exit's a
lane.
lower one.
I still have concern about that, but, we asked you to look at the site distances, they clearly fit within the criteria, so.
would you
Um,
have a problem, Joe, with a no left turn sign?
I mean, you can't enforce it, right, but you can suggest it.
Suggest it.
Would it be for the entire time, or would it be just like during peak times, or what would you do?
No, I don't. If we made that a condition to put that in, it would be total. Anybody that come out of that lot would be
Turning right.
turning right.
Come down to the satellites.
They come down that road quite fast, Joe. So by dualies, you can't get out.
Here's your site distance thing,
Yeah.
okay, like Wendy pointed out, and I think
agree,
that, I just don't wanna see one life lost because of these jerks that come down Auburn Street, okay? Because they don't care. They come down at 50, 55 miles an hour like nothing. So that brings your site distance right now up to 495 feet. Now you have it you have it penciled in here at the design speed of 30 miles an hour with a sight distance design of 200 feet. Okay? That's not even realistic. Not there. But anyway, we can go further on with that. Paul, what do you...
Same thing. I would not like to see a left-hand turn coming out of that exit.
Can I
Sure. Go ahead.
interject on this?
Yeah.
So, the concern is for the left turn. Now, your concern is for traffic coming in which direction?
Coming down from Dooley's Cleaners down to the
Coming
property.
south on Auburn Street.
That's correct.
So sight distance to the north is 684 feet. So looking up towards Dooley's, you have 684 feet of sight distance.
And the other thing I may add to that too is the stopping sight distance is also from the driver too. So when the driver that's coming down Auburn Street also has the 684 feet to see the car that's sitting there at the driveway.
So per the table, your sight distance looking north meets the 65-mile-an-hour design speed. Am I reading that correctly?
It would go up to if
Okay.
everything is in line, it would go up to 645 feet, the sight distance.
So I went down there after our last conversation to see how, I was actually, I think, surprised at how much distance you could see because of where it is on the corner. I think when I was originally envisioning this, I thought it was further down, kind of where this wetland area is here, where it's a little bit more, more difficult to see. Kind of after seeing that, and after seeing that it's on the part of the curb in which, if it was on this side of the road, it'd be much harder to see because you'd be looking behind you. I guess I was actually surprised that I didn't find it to be an issue, and it was right after work, so it was around 5:30 at a busy time of the day. I guess I just expected it to be more of an issue than it was, and I was, I guess, surprised that it, turning out of there really wasn't a challenge. So for the rest of the boards,
How do you feel
value
about
you
that?
put on that?
Well, 5:30, the traffic is moving slow there because you got a lot of traffic. Go down there at 9 o'clock after that traffic has disappeared, and you're gonna find the people flying.
Yeah, well, that's the time at which probably most of your people are going to
That's
be
an-
coming. Is the reason that I went then. I guess is thinking that's when
It's
people
an
are
enforcement
dropping off
issue
and picking
as
up.
well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
picking up there.
How about you, Mr. Brooks?
I'd rather see a no left turn sign there. It's unenforceable if at least we've covered us.
That-
And if somebody chooses to turn left, then they turn left. You can't
It's
stop them.
It's at their own risk.
Like Route 20,
Yeah.
coming out of all those things on the right-hand side of Route 20 heading west.
Is there anybody else that has any questions about anything else concerned with this project?
I think everything else is good, and I think it's a nice addition to the neighborhood, and
I do
it's
too.
gonna look really nice.
I have one item, and it's in reference to the infamous pipe. I know that you met with Bill and Joanna and the town manager. You're going to retain ownership of the pipe. My understanding was that there's going to be a recorded document sort of as part of the grant of easements stating that you're going to retain ownership responsibility for the 24-inch pipe. Am I mistaken? Did I misunderstand my conversation with Bill?
You know what, is that my attorney would be the one to actually ask that. I know that
Okay.
I know that we're retaining ownership of the 24-inch pipe.
Mhm.
I know that we're granting it 2 easements to the town.
Correct.
For your pipe.
Correct.
For all the water
Yeah.
going into the pipe, and I know that I'm going to be responsible for the 24-inch pipe.
Um,
And I know that something is going to get recorded.
Okay.
What exactly it is, I have no idea.
That's fine, but it's going to state that, pardon me, that you're responsible for that pipe and that you're indemnifying the town for any future issue with that pipe?
Yeah, we're already responsible for it. I mean, it's our
Okay,
pipe.
yeah.
So-
Okay. So, because the only reason I say that is because it wasn't in the packet, and I know that your attorney's probably working on it through your construction process. And I guess I would ask that the board include that as a condition based on everything that was put forth before about the pipe and in the engineer's letter. So just so everybody's on the same page about it.
And that's provided that the pipe comes back. I mean, if we have to replace the pipe, then there's going to be a whole different story. But
Yes, and I think that whatever is the condition would say would be in the event that the existing pipe remains.
Okay.
something to that effect. If you replace the pipe, then clearly all bets are off, and you can meet whatever. If you've got to dig it up, then whether you put 24 or 48 is going to be a minimal cost differential.
I don't have an issue with doing that. Making that as one of the conditions.
I don't have an issue with that.
That covers everybody. Okay, is there anything else per this project that we need to discuss?
No, I think that the review letter was very comprehensive.
Very good. Okay, so basically what I would like to see as part of the condition, again, Joe, this is not enforceable. It's not enforceable by law because it wasn't a town sign, okay? But I would like to see, and we're going to take a vote on it, of course, I would like to see a no left turn sign on the exit of that property.
Well, we're willing to do that, right?
And then basically, the existing configuration I have is 24 feet, reduce
Right.
that to 18 feet. Because you really wouldn't need to have.
Well, you know something, I don't think you should reduce that
I
at all,
believe it.
and I'll tell you why. Because if somebody decides to make a left turn out of there, okay,
Okay.
I think the extra footage is going to be necessary for that to happen,
Okay.
okay? So
That's fair.
rather than create a bedlam at that particular point in time, leave it at the 24 feet. Is everybody on line with that no left turn coming out of there? How do you feel about that?
I don't think we need it.
Okay,
If the rest of the
Alright.
board wants to do it,
okay. Well, you know something? It only takes one kid flying down that road to kill a young mother and kid, you know what I mean?
hey, you don't have to tell me.
Well, that's what that's what I'm telling you, okay?
Yeah.
Just to, I think in time it's going to save lives. I really do. That Auburn Street's brutal, I'm telling you. You have no clue.
Well, you have kids driving to the
Live
high
right
school
over
now.
there. Drive it every day. But
I would suggest that the board not encourage the leaving of 24 feet because you sort of send a mixed signal. 18 feet is enough for two cars to be there at the same time if someone's deciding to turn left.
What are we going to do, add another tree?
I'm not suggesting that you add anything else, but if it's going to save Mr. Martin a little bit of pavement, and again, if you're putting out the idea that you don't think a left turn is safe, then indicating
Don't
that they
send
keep the
mixed messages.
indicating that they keep a design
Yeah, I can-
that's set for two
I don't have a problem.
two lanes.
I don't have a problem with
Y-
that.
you-
You want to redo it?
18 feet.
18 feet would be okay, if that's the case. All I'm thinking about is the end result.
And with 18 feet, I mean, people still could take, if there's no traffic at all, could still take a left. Just you wouldn't have two cars side by side.
Very good. Okay, with those conditions in place,
I'll make a motion that
Construction
close the
hours.
hearing.
Second,
all in favor?
aye.
Aye.
I'll make a motion that we approve with conditions.
All right. So let me get the red pen for
There's
conditions.
second.
Second,
What are your conditions?
What we had discussed,
So
The
Construction
pipe.
hours.
so
the working hours.
we'll start with construction hours.
Monday to Friday, what is it? 7:30, 7 to 5, or?
Okay. Saturday, 8 to 12. No Sunday holiday. No left turn.
I got a question. Is the holiday, like major holidays, like 4th of July, Labor Day, does that include like Columbus Day, Veterans Day?
Yes. Anything.
So 11 holidays, is that what it is?
Yeah. If you can't go to the bank, your guys can't work. Is really that's the
school holidays.
the yeah
Rule of
that's the
thumb.
litmus
School
test.
holidays,
Rule of thumb.
school holidays, so.
evacuation day, that doesn't count.
Yeah.
Unless you're building in Boston, but we don't have any say over that.
If you had no neighbors at all, okay, wouldn't make a difference. But you get neighbors across the street
And behind.
And behind.
and behind you.
Yep.
No, I just want to be clear, because our holidays are different than,
And then your pipe.
Yep, so we've got construction hours, no left turn, indemnity, paperwork, and easements.
I was reducing the width of that exit from 24 to 18. Part of that.
Yeah, that would be part of the no left
Yeah.
turn.
And the hash
Yep.
marks on with the tactile on
Hashed walkway. Tack.
Would you want an extra 5 feet of walk there too?
I would say leave it up to the engineer on,
You'd have
on
to-
what fits
yeah.
reasonably.
All right.
Yeah, for the
I mean, this-
ADA access, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I don't have a problem with it.
It's only 10 feet from the sidewalk to the end of the space.
We always include that it's built to plan.
All of the boards.
Yep. All other boards. Do you want a final letter from Graves?
Did you want that?
No, I'm fine.
No,
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm all right with that too.
Yeah.
I think that's everything. All right, dude. Now you folks vote.
I'll make a motion that we,
You made the motion.
oh, I
And
should
second.
vote.
Second it?
I second
All in
it.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. It is a vote.
great, thank you all.
Great, thank
Good
you.
luck.
How quickly can you turn those plans around?
Good question. At least probably a couple weeks.
Okay. We meet in 2 weeks,
Street acceptance report.
and what I'll do is I'm on vacation next week, but when I get back after the holiday, I'll probably sit down that morning and write the decision. So if you have them done, I just need a final date to put in there because
I'm sure these couple of.
Correct, yeah, because it's going to be built to plan and we want to be able to reference the correct plan. So if you can get it to me by that date, great, they'll sign it that night. If not, I can call them and have them come in and sign
We're
it.
gonna discuss
But
Westview.
it may take it may take a month from
Then we'll be out
tonight.
of here.
Okay. He went to
But
see the two
you can start construction,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
all at your own peril,
Who's that?
all of that stuff. If somebody appeals, yada yada, all the people against it that are here. So,
It's from the bad language.
You do whatever.
we can figure it out.
Okay,
There's-
that sounds
All
good.
right.
I'll try to do that if I can.
Yeah, and I'll have access to email while I'm on vacation. I won't check it as much as if I'm in the office, but if you have a question,
So it's next week you're
next
gone?
week, yeah. From Friday to the day after
Thanks again, have a good night.
Memorial Day.
Good luck.
See you later. Good luck.
Good luck, guys.
Okay, we have a discussion in regards to street acceptance report to the Board of Selectmen for Westview Street.
That's correct.
All right. I'm in favor of them accepting Westview Street. Anybody have any comments?
Was is this the one that was recommended by the?
Yes.
Yeah.
This is the one that was recommended by the DPW director.
Just
but
like you asked for.
Appreciate it. Then I'm good. It's one of my policy.
It,
takes longer than the sheet. The sheet was easy to do.
you got your where you were looking for. Okay, do I have a motion to report to the Board of Selectmen that we are in favor of accepting Westview Street as a public way?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it is a vote. Now, it says new business none. I got a little new business to discuss and we can terminate this gathering. Cumberland Farms. We got some issues down there.
In what manner?
Originally, I questioned at the original discussion on Cumberland Farms that we didn't think there was going to be enough room for them to spill out gas and get the truck out of there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the restaurant across the street now has put up what are they? Cones? Cones across their driveway.
Their entrance.
Because evidently the trucks don't have enough room to get out of there.
They're not supposed to go out that way.
Well, I can't speak to what they've done operationally. They've been open for 5 days. The
A little longer than that, but go ahead.
Okay. The design engineer provided a layout with the largest truck turning template that they use that shows the truck entering from Washington Street, traversing the site, and exiting on Washington Street. So,
Who would we notify then? If that's the case and they do have the room that they're supposed to have to do that, who would we notify to, or what can we do to put a sign up on the, have Cumberland Farms put a sign up on the inside of the lot saying that no gas filling trucks should exit this exit?
Are you talking about the little restaurant on the left-hand side? They're having a problem there?
Yeah.
well, I think those cones are in response to issues they had during construction. Because during construction, the site was full of a variety of vehicles and materials. And so drivers were coming, pulling through their parking lot and entering the construction
Well,
entrance.
I'm not
And I'm-
stupid, but here's a story, okay? If that was the case, why were the cones just put up yesterday?
Because I believe that
In retaliation for a month ago?
if you will let me finish the statement,
I'm glad to.
I believe that the couple who owns the restaurant is concerned that the driveway is not as far back as they believed it was going to be, and there is still the potential for regular citizens or people driving these trucks to cut through their parking lot and cross South Street to enter that site. The only way to prevent that is either for them to block their driveways, additional enforcement. We can inform Cumberland Farms that they are to send traffic through Washington Street. It is
This just has to do with the
it's
gas
an
truck.
operational
This
issue.
is not, this just has to do with the unloading of...
I haven't seen a gas truck go in there, but I would think it would be more difficult for the gas truck to traverse through their parking lot into Cumberland Farms and back to where the gas dump is located, which is directly adjacent to the sign for Cumberland Farms in the front. I guess it would be the southwest corner of the site.
The complaint
southeast
I'm hearing is, this is the complaint I'm hearing, okay? They come out of Cumberland Farms, go directly across the street into the parking lot, and then out onto Route 20.
I believe that may have been the complaint. I'm trying to picture a 55-foot trailer taking the right turn from the parking lot across South Street.
He doesn't have to make a right turn to do that. He comes out of one lot and right into the other.
No, I'm talking internally.
They were supposed to come off Washington Street, go around the inside of the pumps
That's
to
right.
the front of the lot, and then back out onto Washington Street.
And that's the way the site was designed.
Yeah.
And the best thing that we can do is we can inform Cumberland Farms that they should be directing their traffic that way. But without controlling the way that people drive is an extremely difficult thing to do. There's no regulations that we can enforce other than the design. So this area here has been hogged out a little bit. The gas dump is right in this area. So in order for the truck to dispense fuel into the tanks, it has to park in this area. So the right turn I'm talking about is coming up this way, turning right to come out and cross South Street, to come across here which then they would have to cross traffic to get out. I
I know, but if you're looking at that, okay, they can come directly out of that driveway, okay, and go directly into the driveway across the street.
I understand.
And then, especially because there's really not a lot of cars there, so they can go through there and then come right out onto Route 20 and make a right or a left turn at that particular point in time, very easily, as to respects to coming out and turning onto South Street.
But I guess what I'm saying is if they're here and they have to come this way, they then have to take a right turn to exit the site. And I don't know.
And they're
Well-
just getting started. My thought would be if you had notified Cumberland Farms,
Yeah, I
if
mean-
I didn't put it
Exactly.
in their supplier notes, and
And I know that,
they can just notify the trucking company. They deal with more difficult things in more
Sure.
urban environments all the time.
and I do know that during construction there was issues with vendors for Cumberland
Well,
Farms
we understand that.
coming through here, and the building inspector had multiple conversations with the on-site supervisor, who's a Cumberland Farms employee, and that was passed up the chain that all deliveries were to come through Washington Street. So it's something that the discussion has been had. I can speak to him and get information on who he spoke to and have him speak to them further.
And one other thing, okay, and then we're out of here, is the fact that on the original discussion, I had asked for, and I think the board was in agreement, that the fence that they use to separate the properties from residential to business were going to be composite fences with UV protection. And needless to say, we've got a cedar stockade fence up there, which, as you and I both know, is going to last probably 3 or 4 years, and it's going to be in shambles. And I called Nick Anavicka and had him check the order of conditions and whatever on the lot, and he tells me that the way the thing was written up was that it was written up using a stockade fence.
My recollection of this, because Nick and I discussed this, there wasn't a condition on the approval for the stockade fence. The discussion was had at the original meeting between the board and Cumberland Farms, that the board was concerned about light trespass from vehicles at the rear parking lot on the South Street side of the building. And you did mention that you would like an opaque fence similar to something composite with UV protection. They made the alterations. They indicated stockade cedar fence. They resubmitted plans after they got their zoning approval, which were distributed to the board, and the stockade fence was included in that, and it did call it specifically cedar stockade. The board approved those plans, and so there was...
I think what we need to do from now on a project that size too, that's a pretty good project, is I think we have to, once it comes back again, we have to re-review it to make sure that everything that we had discussed is part of the final agreement. Because I would never approve a stockade fence.
Well, I didn't call it out because an opaque fence is an opaque fence. Generally, a planning board won't dictate material. They'll dictate that there be a fence that's opaque to prevent light trespass. Now that that fence is installed and part of the site plan, Cumberland Farms is required to keep it in good repair. If it gets to a point where it is in disrepair, they're going to be required through zoning to replace it or repair it. So it's
And just to follow up on this, when Herb Chambers decided to put that customer or employee parking lot in up on Appleton Road, we at that time requested a UV protected composite fence from the front of the lot to the back of the lot. And Larry Broda was the attorney representing them at the time, and he has that in his notes, so there was no mistake there. Okay, so that was just a little trivia that to back up the Cumberland Farms. All right, do I have a, what?
Just really quickly, so that issue and some of the things that we were talking about earlier, when Wendy and I were members of the Economic Development Committee, one of the things they had suggested was having the planning board look at some of the existing subdivision, or subdivision we kind of already looked at, but some of the existing planning board bylaws and regulations to make sure that they reflect what it is that the planning board and the town would want to see. And I think one of the things we talked about in the past was once Adam got a little bit of help, he would be able to do that. And fortunately for all of us, Eric is here. So I was just going to say, for issues like this, if there are things where we think something should be a certain way, we should be as transparent about it as possible. And we should update our regulations and put that in there so when somebody buys a 5-acre lot, they know exactly what we expect of them and not come to the board after they bought it and find out they can't do what they had planned to do in their financial projections. So,
what we're in the process of doing now is Eric's putting together a development guide, which runs through all of the development processes in town, all of the people who have any interaction with developers, assessor, tax collector, clerk, DPW, water district, all of that. And we're essentially going to create it's going to be a big thick book of here's all the stuff that you might want to do, and here's how the process works, and here's the things that go into it. Then I think putting a fine point on it with some of these design guidelines would be, I think, a good next step, because that will be something that anybody can pick up and understand how the process works. And I guess it would make more sense for us if the board wanted to start looking at things that they felt were incumbent on some of these developments. Vinyl, UV rated fence, that's fine. Then what we should look at is putting design guidelines for site plan together. The board has the ability to develop rules and regulations for site plan. There's some now, really all they cover are the process, what goes in the plan and what the application is. If the board wants to start talking about more specificity in design, we can do that. My caution is if we do that, the board isn't limited to using those, but you create a baseline for yourselves, and it's difficult to waver in one way or the other on a regular basis, because then people come in and everybody wants a waiver from something, and it's why did we put these design guidelines together? So we can do that. It's something that, like you said, it's the rules, here's the rules. A lot of developers like that, but it's incumbent upon the board and future boards that once we put this in place, that it be followed. That would be the only.
And if I could, in the situation that you spoke of, Jim, up on Appleton Road, we talked about doing that a nicer fence because it was abutting right up against somebody residential property. And is that the case in the back of the Cumberland Farms too? That abuts in that, that other,
apartment
right,
complex
right.
there.
So maybe that,
Whitney
becomes
Circle.
part of the criteria as well.
And that's fine. But it's a matter
But
of.
like you say, you gotta be careful what you,
A double
you know.
type of fence.
And I'm happy to
I thought
write
we
any
did.
rules,
I thought we asked.
but
for a double fence.
as a town employee,
During translation, disappear.
I don't necessarily get as much latitude as for imposing things as a collection of residents. So I can write everything that I want, but I don't want to say it's easier. There's a little bit more acceptance coming from the board as far as what the rules are. If you tell me what you want, we can craft the language that includes that. But I want to understand what rules you want.
I think we might I
If you want to have a working session,
was going to say on a lightly,
Yeah.
on a light agenda day, maybe have a little brainstorming session.
maybe if
Take
there's a
look at
fifth
maybe what
Tuesday,
some
have
others
a.
are doing and,
Sure. What we
I
can
think it's
do
a
is
good idea that you
I knew it was going to happen.
sit down
as
and
long as the Red
work
Sox aren't
something out.
playing, Jim,
Yeah.
we'll be good, right?
They're on tonight. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion made to adjourn.
Do I second it?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Later.